In this video, I want to show you how I use AI to change the way I approach my retakes for quizzes for my students. Now, my background about taking quizzes is that if they got 80% or less on a quiz, they're going to retake it. What I did was this. I took the data from a Microsoft Forms quiz, and this is just the data, and I created this revision, which includes also a quiz at the end, as well as an interactive tool. So traditionally what I've done is I've given a student a quiz like this on Microsoft Forms, and if they received a mark that was below 80%, what I would then do is obviously give them feedback here and have them read through it and then have them go away and then come back, hopefully that they've read the feedback and that they've gone through this quiz, and then I give them the same quiz again. The problem with that is that with this feedback, you're sort of basing this off of a student who can read and can digest all of this information, as well as there's not a lot of interactivity within this feedback at all. And what I was looking for, hopefully, was something that would hopefully give them more of a targeted way of looking at feedback, something that could be repetitive so that they could go back and do it again and again. And I wanted to reduce my workload, so I didn't want to have to engage on something that would be a lot of work for myself as a teacher. So this new system about how I am using AI, and in this particular way, Claude AI, for revision on these quizzes is simply this. Now that I'm using Claude to automate my revision, the idea is that if a student receives a grade below 80%, they're going to get a personalized interactive revision tool before they take the next quiz. So in a nutshell, what I've been doing is basically just copying and pasting all of this information, this data, into a resource, which is here. And this resource is what I give to my students for revision for individual quizzes. So regarding the data, and this is a very important aspect about AI, you must give as much data as you possibly can to the AI so that it will create one of these interactive resources. In this instance, what I've given is a variety of different things. First of all, I simply have just copy and pasted all this information into an AI. And when I say this information, what's very, very important is this is the points, what they got out of this question. This is the actual question itself. This is the student answer, and this is my feedback. And basically all I did was I just copied all this information, and I used this prompt. These are the results and the feedback from a recent quiz. As they've gotten 80% or lower, they're going to retake this. My actual prompt is based on these instructions of this code, and I'll show you the code in a second. Design a very quick revision resource, and I am looking for something that is interactive. So I will then copy and paste, again, from the forms, from this page. I'm going to copy this into where it says student results, and I'll show you how I did this within Claude in a second. This is the code that I'm going to copy and paste into Claude. I've got the code pasted here, and I've got my prompt here. As you can see within the prompt, it is quite basic, as in here's this task and here's the results. So taking this code and this raw data, what I did is I then created an interactive resource, which is this. So within this revision panel, basically what it does is that it summarizes where the student went wrong on the individual quiz. As you can see, it's gone through this question by question. What I like about this is that it does give a student a very quick synopsis of where they went wrong and about explaining different concepts and all this. So here you can see that there are key controls explained. It gives them about what the control does, how it works, and also some examples about how they could use this within production. What I like about this area is that it gives a tailored explanation for each of the missed questions. And then at the end, this is the self-quiz. So this is also something that I really like about this, is that when the student reads through all this information here and hopefully now understands where they went wrong, this is going to give a very, very quick quiz to that student. So the whole purpose of this really is to test out their understanding before they take this retake. It's more of like a practice. And what this quiz consists of is 4 multiple choice questions. It's all based on the content that they've missed. And again, the brilliant part about this is that they're going to get immediate feedback. So the next panel is the interactive tool panel. And in this one, they get to experiment more with the controls that they learned about in the revision panel. So this will give them more of a visual representation about how these parameters work, these controls in the certain effect that they were just quizzed on. So this is the session that I created this in Claude, and this is the actual revision that I'll give them online. This approach of the revision session obviously supports retrieval, metacognition, the application of where they went wrong and how to improve. It also removes this guess again feel that a lot of students have about traditional retakes and replaces it, I think, with a scaffolding visual learning. And again, just going back to Bloom's taxonomy, this is about feedback, which will move into understanding, which moves into the application of this. So far, my students have really enjoyed this. What it does is it takes this Microsoft Forms feedback and it gives them something to work with. This is much more of an interactive type of resource that I can give them rather than just being with this, which is quite limited. I know that in a traditional format we give feedback like this, but my students don't really read feedback a lot. They're just going to go into these point systems here. And if I gave them this test again or this quiz again, they might not make high marks because again, if they're not going to read my feedback and they're not going to go over these individual questions, there's really not much point about giving them this again. So if you've got students who are doing quizzes and you wanted them to have more of an interaction with what the feedback that you're trying to get them to read through or to learn, this is one way to do that. You don't need to code at all, and that is very, very important. So I'm going to leave my prompt and my code below. So if you wanted to use this, you're more than welcome to.